wanted to do a 1-year plus review on this diesel heater and kind of give you an idea of the pros, the cons. What I would recommend is that you get an enclosed unit. These things right now, I actually just looked on eBay, found one for $75. So $75 to $125 in the US. You can't beat that. It runs on diesel, so it's got the fuel tank incorporated in. It's got a slot that tells you how much fuel is left in there. It has a little controller up here, but it also came with a remote control, so I can just hit the on off button and plus minus to increase the temperature. And the heater itself, the heat exchanger is right here. It also comes with a air inlet hose and not much of a filter, to be honest with you. It's just basically some wire mesh, but I guess it keeps leaves or debris from going in. And it came with an exhaust. Makes for a very comfortable sleep in the tent. Dries out the tent instead of like propane heaters where you create more condensation. You plug it in to a battery or a power source of 12 volts. You have a power station like a Blue Eddy or a Jackery. You could probably wire, I've got little clips on mine, you could wire this to where it could hook up to that. I've had it for about a year and it has never let me down except for once. What happened was it did not get enough power, and the amperage, I guess, was dropping low enough that it wasn't igniting the fuel. On the little window right here, it was giving me an E8 code, which I was able to look up that it said lack of fuel. So I opened it up, looked at the fuel pump. It was delivering plenty of fuel. I could see it. I switched batteries. I had 2 backup batteries, and they both did the same thing, ironically. So I took it apart and found that the glow plug, everything looked good. I could not find anything wrong with it. I got home, took it apart again, rechecked everything that I had already looked at. Had nothing to lose at this point. I'm about to order another one. I tried a 3rd battery. Anyway, long story short, it was working. So it wasn't even the heater's fault. So I can honestly say that it's never really let me down. To get to the insides, the way I've got mine set up, well, first off, you take all these screws, and there are 3 on top, on each side, 2 on the sides, 1 on bottom, again 2 on the sides, same on the other side. I've got this breather attached to here so that it's not dragging all over the place. I found it to be convenient. Once you unscrew that, literally this cover comes off. You do have to remove the fuel cap off and just lift the cover. As you can see here, the main part of the heater is this little plastic box. If you were installing in a van or a camper, this is mainly what you would want. You wouldn't want the full setup because you're probably going to take it apart and install it somewhere underneath, under a cover or something, and then rig up to a fuel system. One of the advantages that I like about this setup is I can go in my little military trailer with the tent, rooftop tent, and have it on there, or I can turn around and put my rooftop tent on my truck and still have the heater available and on there. It's not attached to any particular vehicle. They're all pretty much made the same. They're the same parts, same components. It's just the way they're put together, how thick, how thin, how tall, but essentially it's the same rigging. Now, as far as parts that usually will go wrong is your hosing. This one I've not had any issues with. This is a clear one. I think there's some colored ones or something along those lines that have been defective. The other issue is the fuel pump. The cons on that is that, well, it clicks. It makes a noise. Mine's got a little isolator, little rubber piece right there, but you can still hear it. I find it kind of soothing. It's like a little tick, tick, tick that actually puts me to sleep. They do have an aftermarket fuel pump for these things, but it runs about 50 bucks, almost the price of the heater itself. That is super silent. Just put the heater away from where you're camping. It comes with a hose that's really rigid and it's metal-like. You don't want that. I threw mine out, and what I did is I got a dryer vent type. 1, it won't tear my tent up because it's not actual metal. 2, it's more flexible so you can put it away. And 3, it's able to be stretched out as long as you want and put into the tent. So you can actually put this thing out. Like in my case, I put it out beside the trailer down on the ground. You'd find that the hose I was talking about, the little vent dryer hose that I had on here, was very long, and I used to just wrap it around and bring it into the tent. It's getting cooled as it comes out hot. The longer the vent is, the longer that hot air is having to be in the external temperature. So the one thing I've learned is keep it short while still be comfortable with the noise and all that. But the shorter it is, keeping it short will also allow you to not have to work the heater as hard to keep your tent warm. The other issue that you might come across is if you have a vehicle where you're going to store this in the vehicle, or transfer it from one location as you're going camping to another, and you're putting that in your vehicle. Unless you have a basket in the back of the hitch. Fuel vapors. Diesel stinks. It can stain and make everything oily. If you were to have a leak, that would be a problem. So that's another thing to consider. I've always put it in the back of the truck. If the weather's bad or anything, I can put it in the toolbox. What else can I say about this thing? So it's got the ticking noise. There's a vapor and fuel issues. You can buy them, like I said, in different pieces or as one unit. The exhaust, that does get very, very hot. So if you have children, this thing stays pretty much where you can touch it anywhere. The exhaust that comes out of there will get extremely hot. So you really want to be cautious where you place this. You do have to have a power source. That's the other downside. In my case, I use some batteries, but you could wire it and rig it to your vehicle. Like I said, it doesn't use that much power. Initially, when it first starts up is when it uses the most power. Then it kind of comes down to hardly any amperage. Let's say you live in an area where it's very, very cold and you camp a lot, or you live out of your rig and you're using it every night for months at a time. Then I would say yearly you should take it apart, clean it, because it will get soot and clog up and will give you troubles. And that's like anything else, you have to maintain. As a recap, it'll keep you warm in extreme temperatures. It will also help cut down on condensation in your tent because it'll actually dry out the tent. So that's always been a plus. Hope this is helpful in having you decide whether you're going to buy one of these or not. So guys, I don't want to ramble on, but hopefully this was helpful. I do find them to be a game changer. I love it. Never has it let me down. And the one time it did, like I said, it wasn't its fault. I still can't emphasize this enough. Always go prepared with backup. You never want to just rely on one piece of equipment. I always take sleeping bags and extra covers, and just be ready as if you didn't have it. Speaking of that, you want to buy gear and you're thinking, okay, well, how do I stay warm while I buy one of these? Always remember that sleeping bags and gear that has degrees posted on them are usually survival type temperatures. So if you have a 30-degree sleeping bag or a 0-degree sleeping bag, that's your survivability rate. It means that you'll survive, but you'll be miserable. Usually it's 10 to 15 degrees higher where you'll be comfy. Ask me how I know. So in my case, I carry, because I live in the South, it doesn't normally get that cold, but I still want to be prepared. I do carry 30-degree bags. One of my tips that I'll give is you get yourself in a 30-degree bag, cocoon yourself in that, and then throw another 30-degree bag as a blanket over you. And in my tent, 4 or 5 inches of foam underneath. I stay quite warm, even down into the 20s. So long as, like I said, you're layering out that insulation. Anyway, didn't mean to ramble on sleeping bags and degrees, but I want you to be comfortable out there, and more importantly, safe. Hopefully this was helpful, making your mind up on whether you buy one of these or not. Enjoyed it so much and really appreciated it so much that when I thought it was broken, I was already ready to order one. I had it already in my eBay cart and ready to go. So yes, I would buy it again. Y'all take care.